talk about discipline now. How do you discipline a child that talks about suicide? Some parents might decide to be very gentle, understandable. They don't want to push the child too much. They don't want the child to be in a situation where they become so depressed and they do something dangerous. I understand your love and your fear of pushing the child. But what we want to do is try to maintain a normal expectations for that child. Avoid punitive measures, which is punishment connected. Instead, connect with the child by providing them with logical consequences for their behavior. For example, if a child is messed up an area, you can punish the child by making them stay in a corner. Or you could ask the child to clean up the room as a way to show them that what they messed up needs to be corrected. In some ways, it's a punishment, but it's more connected with what they did wrong that they now need to do right. That is probably more likely a better way to discipline a child who is talking suicide. A child who is talking suicide also needs to be supported to understand that there are rules and expectations in the home. You don't want to be overly protective and you don't want to be overly punitive. Rules and expectations in the home explain to the young person and the other children in the home helps everyone to understand what the expectations are and increases the likelihood of the child who is talking suicide to do more in line with what is expected in the home. Try as much as possible to not have a different set of rules for the child who is talking suicide. Being depressed and feeling suicidal does not mean that the person should not have responsibilities in the home that are age appropriate. That can actually help the child to be more engaged with the family life and can help the child's depression. You may need to seek professional advice depending on the severity of the depression that the child is facing. You want to limit the child's activities with video games for extended periods of time, even if that is what they would rather be doing. Or any activity that involves limited interaction with others, because that can also increase isolation and increase or maintain the depression. Try to get the child involved in activities that involves socializing with family members in the home. If a child has video games or other things they enjoy, they can still do that, but make the expectations clear as to how much time you want the child to be able to use those games. Creating expectations ahead is helpful because you don't want too many surprises for a young person who is talking suicide. You want the structure to be more predictable. I would encourage you to talk to your child about the rules in the home in a way that they fully understand, and check in with them to make sure that the expectations are clear, and if they have any feedback as to how the rules are working. I liked telling my children that if there were reasons why they could not do chores in the house, maybe they had a lot of homework, that there was the room or opportunity for them to tell me about it. I want to encourage you to ask your young person who is struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts to give you feedback, so it becomes more interactive and the child feels heard. Now, what about how do you share the attention with the children in the home? If a child is talking suicide and you're taking them to a therapist or to the hospital, there is a focus on that child as the one who needs help in that time. But when the crisis and the time to go see the therapist or go to the hospital is past, you want to be very careful so that the child who is talking suicide doesn't get all the attention. You want the other children to understand that you're going to be there for them as well. In my work with parents, I have sometimes encouraged them to schedule time for each child and block it out in their schedule so that the children who are not struggling with depression can still feel heard and they can still feel connected with. We don't want a situation where all the direction and all the focus goes towards the person who is experiencing depression for extended periods of time. That is not helpful for the emotional development of the other children. You want to give the other children attention as well because you want to better understand how they're feeling about what's going on in the family. You cannot assume that they're okay because they're not talking depression. You want to be able to see how they're doing. You want to be able to monitor their well-being. And you want them to create a sense of normalcy in the home, even though things are not as normal as you would like it to be. Another important area is that you don't want to compare. You really do not want to compare, even though you may be tempted to do so. And one of the things I tell parents and I tell myself is that even the child who is doing well still has room for growth and development. The child who is doing well, who is not struggling, is not perfect, even though they may not be struggling the way the child who is suffering from depression is. That means that if every child in the home has room for growth and support, I am not going to allow the thought that you are not going to allow that thought that this child is doing perfectly well and this child is a failure. You never want to do that. Resist the urge to compare. Every child, each child in your home has a different personality makeup, has a different set of challenges, and there may be issues that the child who's struggling is facing that the child who's not struggling is not facing. When we compare, we're not able to look at the issues that the child who is struggling objectively. We're minimizing what that child is going through, and we run the risk of not giving the child the support that the child needs. I'm going to dwell on this point a little bit more because parents will tell me things like, oh, I'm not comparing. I know that every child is the same, but you can see by their actions and the way they treat the child who is not struggling, that they prefer the child who is not struggling over the child who is. I am not here to tell you that this is always easy, but it's something, an urge that many parents have that you must resist. You don't know how far in life the child who is struggling is going to go. The fact that that young person is struggling now does not mean things are not going to be better. Please try to look at every child individually, highlight their strengths, and work with them with the areas of growth. Hi, thank you so much for checking out this clip. Please share, like, and subscribe to this channel so that you can view other episodes. Check us out on askdrrola.com, where you'll find additional information about mental health and wellness. See you soon. Bye.